And now, coming to you live from the City of Angels, Los Angeles, California, it's the Sheena Metal Experience with your host, Sheena Metal, only on KGRA Digital Broadcasting.
Hi, and welcome to the Sheena Metal Experience on KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network every Friday at 3 o'clock Pacific time. I'm your host, Sheena Metal. I'm a psychic medium. I'm an interfaith minister. I'm a 27-year talk radio host, and I'm coming to you live from Los Angeles, California every week. This show is about spirituality. It's about humanity. It's about creativity. It's about passion. It's about service. It's about becoming and being your best you, and then inspiring others to do the same in this big, beautiful world. And it may be my show every week, but absolutely, my friends, it is your experience. My guest this week is a wonderfully talented, creative, and performing artist, spiritual being and practitioner, a woman with a heart as big as the world, and a dear friend of mine, and I'm honored to have here on the show. Please welcome the wonderful Debra Wilson. How are you, my friend? It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Goddess. It's been a while. It's been quite a while.
It has been quite a while.
The world is going through its transmutation, and it's been quite a journey for both of us individually, as well as every individual on the planet. But
Sure.
I'm grateful to be here. It's good to see you, Mama.
I'm so great to have you here, sweetheart. I think I hold you in my heart as one of my dearest, whether we see each other's faces or not. And I know that you are roaming the earth, doing magic, spiritual things and creative things at all times. And I'm just so thankful to have you as part of my spirit tribe.
Blessings, Goddess. Same here, sis. Yes, Sister Goddess. Thank you.
So how are you? How have you benefited from this little breather from the everything that we've had for a couple of years? Because I know for some folks it's been very shocking, and for some folks it's been very lonely. And but I also know that for those of us who are always eager to receive what you call the divine downloads a couple of minutes ago, which I loved, this has been an enormous spiritual growth time, right? Of spirit, I think, giving us lots of messages for how to strengthen the 5D in us in order to sort of get our earthbound self in the best place it can be in order to inspire and help others. Has that been your experience as well?
That's always an experience. In other words, we've never been without that experience. We've never been void of that experience. From the day we were fleshed on this planet, we've never been void of that opportunity.
Sure.
Of those gifts. Now, people get caught up in the 3-dimensional world, or the 5-dimensional world, as I like to call it. And so, and for everyone, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but if I can go blue for that second.
Sure.
What I call the 5-dimensional world, especially in the 20th and the 21st centuries, is to eat, sleep, shit, fuck, and consume.
Yeah.
We preoccupy ourselves with those. And so we're missing a spiritual groundedness. And with everything that's taking place, every kind of transmutation that is in upheaval, a lot of people move further away from God. So for those that believe, they're hoping to move closer. And those that have never believed or did believe, but fell away from their faith and became agnostic or atheist, or have always been, there's nothing greater than themselves. So they're beholden to the 5 dimensions. Right. But the universe is constantly giving us evolutionary spiritual downloads and divine downloads. It's just that we choose to listen or we choose not to. Everything has been an opportunity. And sometimes we miss the opportunity because of our focus or lack thereof. And I think for me, it was a powerfully grounded spiritual space that I had to move through. I was already grounded in that space and knew I would not lose that grounding. In fact, I knew that was the minutia was only there to help me continue to recognize that I am minerals and that God created me to be minerals. So all I had more than anything else was the enthusiasm, right, and the opportunity to continue to fertilize the experience in love. Because it's meant to happen, because any upheaval that's going on in us emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, and on every single level within us is the energy that we put out. And so because that energy had been put out on the planet for so long, the gift is we now get an opportunity, because of everyone else going through it as a mirror image, to recognize the rise in that minutia, to recognize the spillover. And in that process of the spillover, stop pointing the finger. Now, there are some people who were so caught up in their own linear thinking because of those 5 dimensions,
Right.
that they never saw it as anything else, as something that is combative. It is a wall. It is something that can't be surmounted. And so they go into a depression, they go into an anger, and it's always going outside of oneself to say, who am I going to blame, so that I don't have to take responsibility and do the grounded work, the grounded spiritual work, or the grounded work in self. Because no matter where you go, there you are.
Right.
And every situation, every experience is designed to continue to grow the make and measure of who you are. So when you're given the minutia of the world, it is a reminder that you are minerals to turn it into fertilizer and then continue to fertilize. Because we did see within that 3-year period, and are still seeing, people who said, I'm going to blog, I'm going to make funny videos.
Yep.
And they became the light unto their own soul, the laughter and the joy and the release. And then they put it out in the world for others to do the same, as well as to laugh at what was done. And so no matter what difficulty we've gone through politically, with such a political upheaval, everything is transmutational. It'll happen. It happened before us and it'll happen after us. But who we are is the make and measure of what we're choosing to use as our fodder. Because no matter what we use and how we behave, and no matter what choices we make, everything is a witness and a testimony to your own experience, so that when you see the mirror image of yourself in someone else, you can come to their rescue, because it's like you're healing every time.
I agree.
So everything is about a healing process. There is never a time when we're out of a healing process. We can be in joy, and there will still be a healing process on the heels of that, for something in the past, in the present, or something that will come along the line. And so for me, in that time period, I stayed grounded in the opportunity that I'm going to take my fear, I'm going to take my reservation, I'm going to take my hesitation, I'm going to take my frustration, and I am going to evolve that by recognizing that I'm minerals. So was it easy? No, it's not supposed to be. But it shows the make and measure of who I am, so that when someone else is going through it, I can say, on a practical level, on an earthly level, as well as the spiritual level, here was my experience. And if they choose to see a mirror image of themselves in that, as I come to support my own healing, they can then choose their healing as well.
I agree.
It was a series of these healings within myself, and then sharing that with others, not trying to heal them, not attempting to heal them, because that's not my job and that's not what I do, but having the most honest, grounded place to share from, so that they have the opportunity, if it is so within them, to see that and know that that is them, and they can recognize it. So everything I've ever gone through, in the light and the dark, is all about being a witness and a testimony to taking it all and learning from it and growing from it and choosing to be those minerals. Because when I do fertilize, I'm fertilizing myself as a tree. I'm fertilizing myself as something much greater than myself, which has as deep a root or root system, so that others can come upon it and go, I see myself. I feel myself. I never saw that. So I never just come from this divine and spiritual approach. The divine and spiritual approach is mine. And I take that and infuse that into the practical approach. So when people say, how are you dealing with this? I tell them, I say, here's what I do. Here's what my thinking is. Here's what my logic is. Here's what I'm choosing. I'm choosing self-love. I'm choosing self-expression. I'm choosing to recognize that it's here to grow me, so that I can be a witness and testimony for other people as I'm talking about my experience, and if they see themselves. And so it's been very grounding. And because of that abundant space, again, what we put out, we get back. And why the world was going through this upheaval is because of all the separation of ideas and beliefs and people and the politics and the finance of everything. And so people had this digression in that regard. And that's why there was a spillover, because the spillover is for our greatest and highest good and for our healing. And what
Yeah.
I did was I said, whatever that spillover is, I'm going to use that for my greatest and highest good and my abundance. And so my abundance towards myself creatively and for everything else, I worked through the pandemic. And not only did I work through the pandemic, but it was nonstop creative space, a nonstop creative space. And to this day, so as I'm talking to you now, from the start of the pandemic to where we are now, I have not stopped working.
Yeah.
I have not stopped working.
I haven't either.
It has increased each year.
Mm-hmm.
My creative space, work-wise, has increased from year to year to year.
Yeah.
Last year was increased. This year it is increased. The year before it was increased.
Yeah.
So I am
Sure.
a true believer, and I am a true faith-based person and a practitioner when I can let go. And as I like to say, and many others do, let God.
Yeah, absolutely.
God's Spirit is within you and works through you
Yes.
so that you can be you.
Yes. I think this time was almost like, you know, when a parent comes into a teenager's room and turns off the music and the TV and the Xbox and says, "Now can you hear me?" I mean, I think we had to have some of the distractions eliminated so that we could really hear, those of us that get caught up in the distractions. And to have all of that having to be someplace and having to do something and this party and this event and this fabulousness shut down for a period of time gave us the time to listen to spirit better and to find out what it is that we really want moving forward, who it is we really are becoming, and not allow ourselves to be distracted by, like you said, those 5 things, the earthbound self. Listen more, because we are spiritual beings having a human experience. Our spirituality does drive us. It drives everything we do. It drives our creativity. It drives our work. It drives our relationships. It is all based in the spirituality. But sometimes we forget to listen. And I think this gave us an enormous opportunity to listen, and also a time for all of us in the world to be dealing with a common thing that we were battling. So it wasn't just, this is a disease for you, or this is a virus that people only get over here. It was a global thing. So we realized and strengthened the ideology that we're one human family, right? That things can happen to any of us, and that we are not separate, that we are one, and we are all the same under one higher power, and that we need to start working more as a team and get rid of some of this us and them mentality. I hope that helped. I hope that happened. I hope some
really
people
do.
started to think about that.
And I thought was also interesting on the internet was people putting up videos of how nature was healing.
Yes. Oh,
from
God,
animals
right away.
to the ocean.
Yes.
How nature was continuing to heal. It was very powerful and cathartic.
Yeah. I mean, right away, right in that first month, a report came out that the temperature of the Earth's crust had changed just from all of us not being in our cars for 1 month. And I think we are continuing to observe that. And I think some people who have telecommuted during the quarantine will continue to. I just went to Palm Springs over my birthday earlier this month, and I have to tell you, the traffic is not as bad as it was. There is definitely a release there. So there are folks who are staying home during the work week and are not out on the freeways. And I think it's great, not just for the earth, which should be our priority to us always, but also just for peace of mind. I think to be able to, I love when I call Amazon or something and I hear somebody's dog or their baby in the background. I mean, how nice to be able to be in your space with your loved ones and also do your job. I think it's very lovely.
I agree. Not having to get up, not having to dress, not having that type of structure.
Right.
And knowing that as soon as you're off the phone, as soon as your day is done, you're already home.
Right. Yeah.
And I think it may even change the course and the idea of how people connect on the phone, because now you're connecting on the phone from someone from their home or their space, whatever space they're in, to you and your space. And I think your space may offer more of an opportunity to relax and take ownership of the experience that you have on the phone with someone, as opposed to being in an office and having them come in every time. Because you're working and there are people around you, and that type of office noise and distraction, that kind of white noise,
Right.
is always there to remind you you're working and you want to get off at 5 or 6 or whatever time you're getting off. But I think
Sure.
what's really interesting is being home and being able to nurture an experience before your next call. And that will add to the way we communicate with each other, because, you know, God knows there are just so many automated systems that keep you on hold on purpose.
And I think customer service people are friendlier now. I think it has really changed. I think people are happier. You know, in my 20s and 30s, I worked in the music business, and I saw sort of that progression of going from the studio you had to rent by the hour to the home studio. And I believe that musicians were turning out better stuff when they could work in their homes, because when you're in a place where, you know, every second costs $1 and the engineer's bored, he's rapping his knuckles on the console and he just wants to get out of there, and it's a pressury situation. And I think to be able to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and sit in your home space and allow yourself to channel the creativity and the music from spirit, and not feel the pressure of, oh my God, I have to get this take, or it's going to cost me another $50. I think a lot of beautiful things came out of home studios because of that.
Absolutely.
And I think we're now seeing that. You know, I used to always laugh that I bought a home and I never spent any time in it. And I think I probably have not spent this much time in a home space since I was 14 years old. Wow. And it's been nice to be able to be in a space that is a home. You know, it's been a beautiful thing.
Yes, yes, indeed.
Now, how about for you? Are you when you do, because you do a lot of voiceover work, do you mostly have to go somewhere, or are you able to do some of that from where you are?
I've got a beautiful balance between my home studio and in studio. There are certain things that require, or I'm asked, based on the sound and the engineering and all the technical stuff that I don't know, that a studio works best because of the sound quality and how you're mixing that with someone else who use that same studio, so it sounds like you're in the same environment together.
Right, sure.
As opposed to sometimes on a technical level, your studio may be great for what it is, but it doesn't match the sound, so it sounds like two people are in the same, you know, when they mix it together, it sounds like two people are having a conversation, which oftentimes, you know, is a part of voiceover work. And so there are things that I do at home that are like perfect, and it works for the engineer. And I work on a number of animated shows that do go from home, but I'm also working on an animated show, 2 of them at least that work in studio, 3 of them at least that work in studio.
Yeah.
So I love the balance between the two. And it doesn't bother me, because more than anything else, I love what I do so much that it's more important to get the quality of sound that you want. I'll go to wherever you need me to be, as long as you're getting what you need. So I can not have to engineer and not have to check my gain, and not have to watch, you know, my volume and stuff like that. And I can just not engineer and do my work, my voice work.
Yeah, I agree.
I do my voice work from a booth in a studio. And I like going to see people too. So it's
and it's nice. That's a luxury now, right? We're so excited when we get to go and see people.
Yeah,
It's like we're like when babies see each other. It's so exciting. Yeah. Oh, I get to see a person. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and I'm still not working with any of the other voice people directly, except when I'm doing ADR and looping, and then it's a party and a family reunion all rolled up into one.
That's nice. There's such a beautiful power in your voice, and I believe that that words are powerful. I believe that there's an energy that comes through when people speak, and I think that when you are someone who everyone has gifts when they speak. Everyone's voice has a gift in it, but you are such a powerful speaker, and it's the actual energy and tonality of your voice is so beautiful that I think that when you speak, whether you are speaking as an actor doing a character, or whether you're speaking as yourself, it's part of your ministry. Like there's a gift in there. And I would sit and just, like, I would let you read the phone book, and I would just sit on an amethyst mat and let you read the phone book to me. And it would be like a super healing experience. I think people don't sometimes realize that, right? When they speak, how important the tone of your voice is and your energy is. And sometimes it's not even what you're saying. Sometimes it's just the energy that's coming through in your voice, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think everybody's voice is that vibrational space of authenticity. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we don't listen to that and we don't find our authentic voice because we don't speak a truth. Um, and so it's really important that once we evolve into accepting ourselves and loving ourselves and that self-love space, your cadence and your rhythm will change and people
Mm-hmm.
will hear that. I mean, you'll hear it because your wisdom has grown.
Mm-hmm.
Your comfort has grown, your confidence has grown, and it actually changes the way your speech patterns work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a fascinating thing, I think, and I think it's something that maybe having been in front of a microphone for most of my life, I took for granted and didn't really take the time to think about it really until I started doing all my years of radio, right? Really until I started doing like Facebook Live videos and TikTok videos and started opened my spiritual practice a few years ago, and I noticed how much people were responding to the tone of my voice as much as they were responding to what I was saying. And I think your voice is a way your soul comes out, right? I also think when you speak or when you sing or when you laugh, it's you're healing yourself in doing those things. It's
If
sort
it's
of like you
authentic,
clean your
absolutely.
closet spiritually, right?
If it's authentic, yes, I think there are two contingency plans to that. I personally, for me personally, think that what's requested and required to show up is your authenticity,
Yes.
and number one, and your intention.
Yeah.
I think those
Yes.
two are extremely important and necessary. And as I'm continuing to evolve in this creative space, and I'm watching the vista of what I do on so many levels, where my voice is not this when I'm doing it, I don't really call myself a voiceover artist as much as I call myself a storyteller.
I love that.
Because I'm here to tell, it's a privilege and an honor. And I see it as a sacred responsibility to be able to tell the story of someone else and be of service. In other words, I don't care if it's a video game or a podcast or an animated show, and I don't care what character it is. I'm here to tell what you've created, the story. And at the end of the day, people just don't want to hear you. They want to feel you.
I agree. I agree. You know,
and they want you to take them away if that's meant to be. They want you to absorb them if that's meant to be. They want to pray with you and go into meditation if that is meant to be. And I started doing that a long time ago. The very first, I won't say the very first, but the one time that really comes to mind was I was visiting a friend who had a tattoo shop here. And I walked in and someone was on a table, and I knew the artist who was performing this, but the man who was on the table was wincing. His eyes were closed, and he would do this every time, and you can tell that when the needle hit, he was in pain. I couldn't see him. I didn't want to see him in pain. I didn't want to see him in pain. So what I did was, he was on a table, and he was lying flat on his stomach, and he was getting his leg done. And I just began to whisper in his ear. He never, and here's why I know, like I said, when I believe in divine downloads, this was a download because he could have opened his eyes and said, "What are you doing? Excuse me, I don't know you. Get away from me."
Sure.
I'm sorry. Or gotten startled.
Yeah.
He didn't. So he was in need, and spirit was like, "All right, I'm going to fill you in this moment because you really want to do this. Your intention is to give him some attention and to help ease this experience." And so I started whispering in his ear, and I started giving him visual cues to help relax him. And the visual cues came effortlessly and easily. I saw him in my third eye, so it was easy to kind of guide where I was going because I could see it in my third eye, which was definitely a gift from spirit. And I guided him and guided him and guided him and guided him. I'm sorry, I should have turned my phone off, but I guided him and guided him. And it's almost like spirit saying, yes, see, that's.
Yeah, exactly. The chorus is answering.
Because every time you talk about spirit, when that bell rings, an angel gets their wings.
Yep.
So I started guiding him through this creative visualization meditation. And I watched his body relax. And the more I gave him suggestions, the deeper he went. And the more I drew him in, the deeper he went.
Mm-hmm.
And I never stopped speaking to him. I never had a break for 45 minutes. It was complete continuing to share, and it was nonstop for 45 minutes until finally Lance, who was the artist at the time, the tattoo artist, looked at me and said, "Wake him up. He's done. Bring him up." And I was able to bring him out, and I never knew the gentleman's name. We never shared names or that kind of information, but he just looked at me and said, "What did you do to me?" And I said, "I didn't do anything to you. It's what you did for yourself. I didn't do anything to you. I don't have that power. I didn't do anything to you. It's what you did for yourself, what you chose for yourself."
Yeah.
And it was powerful to watch him literally just, his body began to relax, where he paid no attention to the pain, or he didn't feel the pain. I don't know. But his body relaxed, and it got to the point when the artist was finished, the gentleman was still on there and not moving. So he said, "Just wake him up." And he was like, "Wow, I'm done." What did you do?
Right.
No, what did you do?
Well, what a gift for him to be allowed to allow himself to go into that relaxing place. Because I think for some folks to allow themselves to be in that sort of in the moment isness, ultimate relaxation, it's very hard for them. They don't allow themselves that. So for you to help him to allow himself that is such a beautiful thing, because I
only had one intention. That's because I only had one intention. And when you have this one intention, it really becomes pure.
Right.
God says, "All right, I'm anointing this experience." And that one intention was love. That's it.
It's beautiful.
Love.
Yeah. It's beautiful. It's what it's all about. It's what
and I'm
everything
grateful
is about.
that he accepted that.
So beautiful.
Like I said, it was an anointed experience. It was totally me, but not me.
Right. Well, I think that's always true, right? I think when I work with clients, or when I teach, or when I do healings, it's me, but not me. I mean, it certainly is coming through my vessel, but it definitely originates somewhere else. And it's a co-creation between spirit and me. And one of my favorite things when I work with clients is that during the time of the session, right, whether it's 15 minutes or a half hour, an hour, 2 hours, I feel them literally getting lighter in the soul as we work through things. And a lot of times, as simple as it is, it's finding a safe space for them to tell their truth, for them to talk about how they're feeling without having to edit it because they're scared they're going to be judged or someone's going to tell them they're doing it wrong, to be able to explain their fears, that they're scared to tell anyone because they think they might be silly or somebody might laugh. And it is a cathartic experience to be with a like-minded soul who accepts and loves you 100%. And all you have to do is just talk. And the freedom of being able to actually speak your mind and your heart and your soul unburdens you. And I think that is the first step for folks healing themselves. And I think certainly with me and my own healing in my life as a person, that being able to speak my truth, even sometimes just out loud to myself and spirit, is healing and begins that road of being okay. And I think it's the same thing with pain, right? I grew up having a lot of surgeries and being in the hospital a lot as a teenager and a young adult. And you either can fight it and wince your way through it, as that gentleman was, right? Or you just sort of accept it and let it flow through you, and you just stay in the moment with it and know that spirit will take care of you. And,
Absolutely.
And I think that's true of
it requires a certain amount of release of fear.
Yes. And I think that's true of all things in life, right? Emotional things, spiritual things, financial things. You can either panic your way through it and wince, like you said. I love the explanation of the man wincing through the pain is a fantastic analogy for this. Or you can say, okay, like you said, let go, let God. And my mama used to do this thing where when things would get tough, or we'd have we hit a financial bump, or we'd hit something with her health or something, she would always say, "Oh, honey, God's going to take care of me. I'm not worried." And literally the next day, a check would show up for like $10,000 that she wasn't expecting, like a dividend or something. And she'd say, "See, God always takes care of you. It's going to be okay." I think if you keep that sort of spirit is here, sometimes my clients will say to me, and it kind of breaks my heart, why does spirit hate me, or what does spirit have against me? That is a man-made concept. That's not anything from spirit. Spirit wants us to have the most amazing, wonderful, enriching, fulfilling life that is fantastic spiritual revelations and also, great food, great sex, great time. Both things combined. Spirit always wants us to be wonderful. Doesn't mean we don't have challenges and obstacles and all that kind of stuff we have to work through for our growth and learning, but we're here to have a good life. Spirit didn't throw us here like it's a season of Survivor. Like, okay, well, you got to eat ants and have fun rubbing those sticks together. It's not, you know what I mean? But I think because of sometimes what organized religion has told people, they think we're here to suffer. And and you can either think of getting a tattoo and the pain involved as suffering, or you can think of it as a rite of passage. It's about your perspective, right?
Absolutely. And I can tell you why some of your clients and human beings in general feel like spirit doesn't like them or they're being tested. They feel that way because they have limitations in terms of, if I do this, this should happen. If I say this, this should happen. If I pray this way, this should happen. And so it's a barter system. It's not trust.
Right.
And so they're like, I have expectation if I do this. If I do this, I'm not doing it for my greater good. I'm doing it to reach this goal in this world.
Yes.
Because when they say, I just want to be happy, they are still tied to what happiness means in terms of the material.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. And when people ask me,
the reason people go, God is testing me, or, why is this happening? It's because they're so tied to the three-dimensional world of expectation that if I do this, I behave this way, I believe this thing, then this should happen to me. All of this good, all of what I interpret as good, which is a limitation in the three-dimensional world, should happen because all of those things that are good are three-dimensional.
Right.
As opposed to a love that is so powerful, so deep, so everlasting.
Yeah.
That it created you to be everlasting as well.
Yes.
When all of this stuff goes, when all of this stuff is no longer existing, and when your material has gone away because you're leaving and shuffling off this mortal coil, and it means nothing to you. And we get opportunities to take those glimpses so many times where if there is a loved one who is ill, I would trade anything to have them better. I would, if you're telling me this is required for them to be better, then I would do everything I could possibly do, as opposed to going, well, it's my money and I don't know if I would do that or go that far, that kind of a thing. But when it comes to someone, you can't tell a rich man that he wouldn't. I don't believe you can, tell a rich man who loves his child that if she's going through cancer, that money is no object at that point.
Right.
And so we have those experiences, but we make those judgment calls in terms of our relationship, or rather relationship, to our spiritual selves and what we expect back. And so we get disappointed. And that is the equation to, why people are like, well, why does this happen and why? Because your equation is, I put something out into the world that I hope is going to reach on a spiritual level and then come back down at me in the world. But I only see myself as a three-dimensional being. So I'm still laden with lack, limitation, and density in my consciousness, so that I can't seem to equate the loftier space that is much greater than myself, because I've equated it to the three-dimensional world where I am, so I can see straight ahead and like this, but I'm not looking up. I'm not letting go, and I'm not truly surrendering. And so that is part of their lesson. It's par for the course of it.
Yes, I agree. Absolutely. When people say, like, do you pray when you want things? And I always say, I don't pray when I want things. I don't get on my knees and say, please God, can I have a Maserati? But I do keep the communication open all the time. I keep the channel open. So I'm in constant communication with spirit, which means that sometimes I'm receiving messages and sometimes I'm speaking. And prayer is a part of that. But I think for some folks, like you said, they get stuck in the 3 dimensions, and prayer becomes like a bucket list of what they want. And that is a different kind of relationship than Spirit would like us to have with them, which is an open communication and a
because
dialogue.
that space that you're talking about where people are praying is a sense of desperation.
Yes.
And you can't have desperation and trust.
Yes, absolutely. That's
they
absolutely
won't marry
true.
each other.
Yeah, that's absolutely.
They're like magnets that do this. There's no such thing as desperation and trust.
Yes, it's absolutely true.
Especially when it comes to the equation into the physical world, where you go like, okay, I'm praying for these things because I'm afraid of what would happen if I don't have them.
Yes.
As opposed to I surrender because there is a greater good waiting for me. And I know that you're always in my corner for my greatest and highest good. Always, always, always. Everything that comes to me and everything that does not come to me,
right,
is still for my greatest and highest good. And therefore, my reinforcement is not in what I didn't get. My reinforcement is thank you, because this is the journey I'm taking for this lesson. And that's where my truest abundance and wealth comes from.
Absolutely. That's absolutely true.
Unless you pray, oh Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes Benz? My friends all have Porsches. I must make amends.
Right. That's a whole that's okay.
That's my Janis Joplin there. There you go.
You know, it's funny because I tell this story and I say it with love, but I had a friend many years ago when The Secret first came out, and she made a vision board, and she came to me and she said, I'm accepting my spirituality, and this is my vision board. And she showed it to me, and the vision board was a Maserati, and $1 million, and Fabio. There was a picture of Fabio, and rollerblades. And that was her idea of what her newfound spirituality had gotten her. And she was very upset that those things hadn't come to her yet. I kind of felt like going to Walmart and buying her some rollerblades so she had something on the vision board. But I think that sometimes we, like you said, it's almost like a barter system, right? We think we're just going to call up the God hotline. It's like Santa Claus and say, here's what I want. I want all this stuff.
But I don't want to have a relationship with you.
Right, right, exactly. It's like the parent that you don't like and you just call when you want something. Right, I don't want to have a relationship with you, but I want Fabio. It's to me, it's you have to think about it. It is a relationship, and this universe is extremely abundant, brings you unlimited abundance, but it's about knowing how to ask for it and knowing and what you're going to do with it, and having that dialogue and that conversation that goes on between you and Spirit.
And to add to that,
please,
sometimes it's not about knowing what to ask for. Sometimes it's simply about trusting God to give you a vision as you continue to evolve spiritually, emotionally, in the physical world.
Yes.
So that the things you thought you wanted aren't really what you wanted. So God, who knows your soul better than anybody else and any other energy on the planet and beyond, can give you something that you truly wanted without you knowing that you really wanted it. But by the time it comes, you've evolved and ascended to go, yes, that's exactly it. Because those other things I would have given away, those other things would have lost their meaning. As I'm choosing to have an evolutionary relationship with you. And if I choose that relationship, then I can let go of what the interpretation in the physical world is. So if I ask to be happy, you'll show me happiness.
Yes.
If I ask to be abundant, I'm already in the space of abundance within. And therefore you can translate what that abundance without looks like instead of me asking for a particular car.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
so I never asked God to help me work through this pandemic. I never asked Spirit to provide me a job while I felt desperate. All I did was I said, I'm in a creative space. I know where this is coming from. I know the lessons I need to learn, because it's not just about me being stuck in a place. It's about watching the world continue to grow as I am connected to each and all living things. And so I never lost sight of my groundedness in my connection to all things.
Yes.
And so as I saw other people's fears and everything else, it was putting a prayer out for the world, my meditations out for the world, grounding myself in that space where it was the most important thing. And that if spirit was meant to give me something, then I don't need to ask for it because it will come. But my spirit needs to be abundant in ways that I'm choosing not for this to happen, but because it's already happening.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
then spirit was like, well, since you're not paying attention to the three-dimensional world, you're not paying attention to bills and all of those things, and your faith is so great, then I need to make sure you're taken care of, because I know from this grounded platform, from this grounded foundation, when you receive something, it won't be a matter of, oh, good, because I didn't know when this was going to happen. It'll be a matter of, this is already flowing. I'm already conditioned to the spiritual flow. So whatever comes in, because I put that prayer out to the world, let me put some of this away for people who I know are desperate.
Yeah.
And let me not wait for them to ask.
Yes.
Let me share.
Absolutely.
Let me make sure I take care of my bills. Let me take care of my rent and all the little creative things I like to do. Now I have this. I have this chest. I have this space that I'm holding financially for those in need. And I never, ever, ever ask to get anything back. I never lend. I always give, because I know that that money wasn't mine to begin with.
Yeah.
It was a gift and it was given. So for me to ask you to give back God's gift is a slap in the face of God.
Yes.
And at the same time, I don't want to become a loan shark to have to go after you. I don't want to be a money changer. I don't want to be a money grubber. I'm not a bank. I'm not a loan shark. I'm not a financial institution. If you are already suffering on one level, let me, like my rabbi, step into your shoes and know the desperation you feel, and not compound that desperation by you having to be desperate either to avoid me or desperate in ways to try to pay me back. I wouldn't put you in that situation. That's not worthy of the God I love and believe, who believes in me.
Yes.
And so to protect my own soul selfishly, I won't be those things. I will be an emissary to make sure that if everybody else might be doing that, or other people in your life may be asking for that money back, or let you know it's a loan, I want to be that person, or a part of those people who say, you don't have to pay me back. If you needed the money to begin with, you're not going to be able to pay me back. Let's be real. And I won't put you in that situation.
Yeah.
So I'm not lending you money. I'm giving you money.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that's all round in life, right? Everything should be done because it is being done, not because you expect something in return. You don't do a good deed hoping something will come back. You just...
Girl, I'm going to keep it real. Girl, Sister Goddess, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands have gone out the door, and God continues to replenish me.
Yes, me too. I feel the same way. Me too. Yeah.
If I just go, this person needs, oh no, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And walking by that faith, turn around, bam.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Let me tell you something. I was not 6 months. I was in a car collision. I'm fine. The people who were also in the collision were fine. It was my fault. I was traumatized because I'd never been in a collision.
It's a lot.
And I was traumatized because I caused it. And so their car, which was a giant SUV, had a slight bend in their a misalignment in their bumper. That was it.
Right.
A slight misalignment. My car was totaled.
Yeah.
And no more than 6 months later, because I told myself, well, I'm not going to get another car. I ride a motorcycle. I'll just use my motorcycle. I'll use my motorcycle.
Sure.
But God kept sending me these messages through other people and making these suggestions that I didn't realize were meant for me to act upon.
Yes.
So I acted upon it and asked someone about leasing a car, because all my friends were leasing. I lease. Really? Then tell me about this leasing. Let me take you to the guy. Went to the guy, met him, Joe. Oh, leasing. And I said, yeah, you know what I've always wanted? I want just a little car because I always envision myself as just me and my dog. Just this, I'm an old lady and a tiny little cool car. And my little cool car was either like a Honda Fit or a Chevy Spark.
Yeah.
You know, something small and cute. Now you would see these Chevy Sparks and all these cute little Kool-Aid looking colors. And I kept thinking, yeah, the Chevy Spark hits the mark. That Chevy Spark, yeah, the Honda Fit is the shit, but the Chevy Spark hits the mark. And I kept thinking, you know, yeah, I like that little car. And I never asked for a car because I ride my motorcycle and I would ride my motorcycle past a little Chevy Spark. I'm like, yeah, one day that's really cute. But never doing to invest in having that happen and never praying for it. Well, eventually, Joe said, well, listen, it sounds like you want to buy something. And I said, he said, the way you're talking about it, you really want to buy a car. And no one leases a Chevy Spark. It's the cheapest car on the market. And I wanted a base model because I'm like, well, it's just to take my dog around. My main mode of transportation is my motorcycle. I want a little car to help somebody out and a little car to pick up some stuff and that kind of a thing. And so I wanted a base model. And he said, well, nobody leases that. You want to buy something like that. And I'm like, yeah, but you know what? In my mind, I don't want to buy. I'm out of debt. And I've been out of debt for years. I don't want a car loan. I don't want a car lease. I don't want to do any of that stuff. I'd rather not have than have to go with that. I want just a car of my own. I want to be able to buy it right out. So I knew I wouldn't be able to buy it right out financially at the time. So I let it go. A week or less, I got a residual check, which I had never had in the 30 years of being in this industry between New York and LA. A residual check that paid for a base model Chevy Spark.
Wow.
First time I'd ever gotten a check that way in 30 years.
Wow.
30 years. So I immediately fell to my knees and I was humbled because I knew what that meant.
Yep.
I told Joe and he's like, all right, I'll look into it for you. Saturday night, I told him the story. I witnessed and testified to this happening, this experience. Saturday night, I'm sitting on the couch. He said, I'll look and I'll look. And I said, well, okay, I'll look too then. And I was just looking online. So I assumed he was looking online. I was looking online. So looking online at things and comparing notes. And he says, and we kept calling each other back and forth. I was like, oh, Joe, look at that. Oh, Joe, look at that. Oh, Debra, look at this. Finally, I said, hey, Joe, where do you live? He goes, I live in the Valley. Well, I live in the Valley. Have you ever gone to Van Nuys Boulevard of Cars? It's a huge thoroughfare along Van Nuys Boulevard from Sherman Oaks to Van Nuys.
Sure.
And there are tons of car dealerships. I think they have a Chevy dealership.
Of course they do.
Keys on Van Nuys. Free advertising, guys. Anyway, I said, maybe they might have it if you go online. He says, okay, I'll check. Half hour later, boop, 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 pictures pop up. Now, I had a color in mind, but I'm figuring, look, I don't really care what color it is at this point.
Yeah.
Because I have the money and I don't care what color it is. But I wanted a color that was rare to this car, which is called passion fruit. And very few of these purple, light kind of purple, lavendery, lilac cars are in that color. And so, and base model. So all these pictures were popping up. It was a passion fruit base model Chevy Spark. And he showed it to me. And he said, would you take it for 14.3? And I was like, I typed back, fuck yeah. He said, I'll pick you up. Your car's ready. He was at Van Nuys. I thought he was going online. He went to Van Nuys Chevrolet at 7 p.m.
Yeah.
Made the deal by 8 p.m. I was in my car by 8:30. And it had been no more than 6 months. That's how God works. That's how God works. I wasn't without 6 months without a car. And it was just a thought about one day when I'm an old lady, I'm going to have my little Chevy Spark. I'm going to have a little car. Just visualizing that, not asking and not expecting. So now coming back to your friend with the board, again, her focus was not spirituality. Her focus was the three-dimensional world.
Yes. Yes.
And I can't tell you how I've used that car to take people off the streets and get them to a safe place, to take people to the airport. I picked up a man and his pit bull to get him to the bus station, to make sure that he got on a bus. He had no money. He had not lived in LA for so long. He was living with a woman that broke up. He was traveling with a half a bag, black plastic garbage bag of clothes. He didn't have a jacket, and it was cool that night. And Spirit specifically said, ask him what he wants. Specifically, ask him what he wants.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Ask him what he needs, which is different. Ask him what he needs. And the message was very clear. And I was like, I'm tired. I want to go home. I've been working all day long. I haven't gotten home because by the time I get home, I still have to go back out and take the dog out first before I even try to settle in to eat. And it's all I'm going to be eating by 8, 9 o'clock. And that was where my mind was.
Right.
So God was on HD and I'm on AM. And
right.
so Spirit kept saying in a very gentle voice, but very clearly,
gentle but firm.
Ask him what he wants. I mean, ask him what he needs. Ask him what he needs. About to get on my motorcycle, come out of the post office, ask him what he needs. As soon as I said, excuse me, sir, because I kept saying, he's got a phone. He's got a dog. He's probably waiting on an Uber. I went over to him and said, excuse me, sir, can you please tell me, what do you need? What can I do for you? What do you need? As he told me his story, heart chakra, boom. God says, gotcha. See, I just wanted you to open your heart chakra. Because it was all about, you got to get home and you had a long day, right? You had a long day of working. You had a long day of doing what you love to do. You had a long day of being creative abundantly. You had a long day to go back to a home. You had a long day to go back to companion animals who are safe. You got a long day of going back to a place where your rent is paid. Your bills are paid. So yes, you did have a long day, didn't you, Debra? And when Spirit gently and lovingly said to ask him what he needs, when he told me his story, Spirit was like, that's all I needed. I just needed a crack to fill you with me. That's it.
It's beautiful.
At one point, I thought, okay, I couldn't do enough. I was like, I'll never be able to do enough. So at one point, I'm getting him clothes, I'm getting him stuff, I'm going to take him downtown, make sure he gets a ticket, make sure he has food, make sure he gets a backpack, make sure he has snacks, make sure he has money, make sure that someone's going to meet him back in Oregon. At one point, I'm driving back and I said, what if he kills you? What if he gets his dog to attack you and he steals the car? What if he rapes you? And my honest to God thought was, if this is Spirit's will, then this is where I'm meant to go. I know Spirit will use me for greater and higher good beyond this world. Who am I to think that God's greatest and highest good is only because I'm here on the planet?
Yep. I agree. Sweetheart, we are completely out of time. You are beautiful and I love you. Thank you for being here and let's do this again, okay?
Please, so much more to share about my trip.
Yes,
paranormal trip
yes,
with
about
the Kling brothers from Ghost Lab.
That's a teaser for next time with the Kling brothers. It's the Sheena Metal Experience. We're here every Friday at 3 o'clock Pacific time on KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. Till I see you next time, my friends, seek peace, live in love, lead with kindness, embrace unity, always raise your vibration and the vibration of the world and the universe. I'll see you next time. I love you all. Thank you, Debra. Thank you for being here. Thank you, KGRA. I'll see you next Friday. I love you all. Thank you, Debra. Thank you for being here. Thank you, KGRA. I'll see you next Friday.